Thank you, Jen. Much like Erin's story, it's an excellent example of why I believe that research is care. Good morning, everyone. Je vous remercie vivement de m'avoir donné la possibilité de m'adresser à vous aujourd'hui. Every patient deserves an opportunity to participate in research if they choose, and this research should be considered an integral part of their care. Research gives patients hope by providing access to tomorrow's therapies today. I know this is true, not only because I'm an oncologist and a cancer researcher, but also because I am a wife and a mother. Je m'explique. It was the Easter long weekend in April 2022, and my family was hitting the ski slopes at Jay Peak. My 3 boys, at the time aged 8, 11, and 13, were having a blast. However, my husband Adam was experiencing vague abdominal pain. I reassured him that it was likely from stress related to his new job as CEO of the Cement Association of Canada. But by early May, Adam's pain was worse, and we ultimately brought him to the Ottawa Hospital, where he had a CT scan. I went back to my office to review it, and I will never forget the shock of that moment. There was a 19-centimeter mass in the liver, along with more than a dozen other masses throughout his body. En tant que chirurgienne oncologue, j'avais déjà une très bonne idée de quoi il s'agissait. I knew immediately that the most likely diagnosis was a rare form of cancer called cholangiocarcinoma, or bile duct cancer, and that it was widely metastatic. I also knew that there was no cure for this kind of cancer once it has spread, and that the average life expectancy was less than a year. As we drove home that evening with a prescription for pain medicine and a plan for a biopsy and a consult in the cancer center, the world felt foreign. I thought about all the times that I'd given this type of distressing news to my patients. I always interpreted their quiet reactions and few words as being brave. But now I know they were probably just trying to remember to breathe. As we cleaned up for dinner and put our children to bed that night, I kept looking at their sweet faces. They had no idea what was coming, and I did not want to be the one to break their hearts. I have never felt so sad and scared. I have watched many people die of this disease. The thought of watching Adam suffer was more than I could bear. A few days later, I told the devastating news to my good friend and mentor, Dr. John Bell, a world-renowned cancer scientist. But his response was not what I expected. He reminded me of what I always tell my cancer patients about the power of yet. For those of you who were at the President's Breakfast last year, you may recall that I told the story of my middle son, Matthew, who came home from school in grade 2 and told me that yet was the most powerful word in the English language. When you add it to the end of any sentence, it makes the impossible possible. John reminded me that biotherapies and other treatments were advancing at an unprecedented pace, and that Adam is being cared for at one of the most research-intensive hospitals in Canada. He said, "We know it's no longer a matter of if cancer will be cured, but when and which subtypes will be the first to fall." He suggested we focus on cholangiocarcinoma in some of our research programs. Maybe we could cure Adam, as well as others with this devastating cancer. I left the hospital that day with a quiet whisper of hope. By the time we had our first consult with the oncologist, Dr. Derek Yonker, that quiet whisper had its own voice. Dr. Yonker had written a summary of the diagnosis, prognosis, and proposed treatments on a clipboard. At the top, it said, cholangiocarcinoma, treatable but not curable. I asked to borrow his pen, and after not curable, I wrote, ... yet. Not curable yet. For the first time since looking at that horrible CT scan, Adam and I both had the courage to hope. Adam was an amazing patient. Dr. Yonker was an amazing oncologist, and just like Dr. Bell said, TOH is a research-intensive hospital. Dr. Yonker managed to get access Adam access to immunotherapy based on a recent positive clinical trial, even though it had not yet even been approved by Health Canada. He also enrolled Adam in a clinical study for molecular profiling, and because Adam did have a targetable mutation, Dr. Yonker was able to provide access to an experimental molecular therapy. I had no idea that core research programs supported by the Ottawa Hospital Foundation and generous donors like you would be so critical for Adam's care. TOH is Canada's only global tissue consent program where all patients are asked if they want their tissue used for research. Because of this, we were able to study Adam's tumor in the Cancer Research Lab. Even more serendipitous, a few years earlier, I had received a grant funded through the Ottawa Hospital Foundation to visit the National Institute of Health outside of Washington, D.C., where I learned about tumor-infiltrating lymphocytes, or TIL therapy. This is a type of T-cell immunotherapy that was only available through clinical trials in the U.S. and had cured a patient with stage 4 cholangiocarcinoma. Adam ultimately enrolled in that same trial at the NIH and was treated there last year. On the night he was diagnosed, as we lay beside each other in shock, I said to Adam, "This was not the script I wrote for our lives." And he replied, "Sweetie, you don't get to write the script. You just get to play the part. And I don't know about you, but I plan to go for an Academy Award." I have never forgotten that reply, and it inspired me to co-found the Canadian Cholangiocarcinoma Collaborative with OHRI scientist Dr. Ilkow and many other amazing colleagues at TOH and across Canada. Nous avons reçu une subvention de 7,5 millions de dollars pour donner de l'espoir aux patients en leur donnant accès à la recherche. With this program, we have supported over 300 patients with this rare cancer across Canada by providing molecular profiling, matching them to clinical trials, as well as direct one-on-one support through our Research Navigator. We've also created a national pipeline of discovery research and biotherapies for cholangiocarcinoma. And again, thanks to philanthropy and support from the foundation, we have developed the manufacturing expertise to make TIL therapy available at our hospital. And we will start the first clinical trial of this in Canada later this year, so that patients don't need to go to the US to receive it anymore. Chaque patient qui franchit les portes de l'hôpital Ottawa mérite de garder espoir, même s'il est atteint d'une maladie débilitante ou potentiellement mortelle. Lorsque toutes les options thérapeutiques standards ont été épuisées, la recherche procure dès aujourd'hui les soins de demain. You don't write the script, you just play the part. I knew I needed to ensure that every promising discovery is translated through clinical trials to implementation for benefit of our patients, and that every patient finds hope through access to cutting-edge research at the Ottawa Hospital. Je continue d'être fermement attachée à la réalisation de cet objectif, mais j'ai besoin de votre aide. Hope starts with a whisper, but if we all believe, then its sound can be deafening. Adam is alive today thanks to research at the Ottawa Hospital, and if his cancer progresses, I know research will again offer us hope. We need your support so every patient and every family can have hope too. Je vous remercie infiniment pour tout ce que vous avez déjà fait pour Adam, pour moi, et pour notre famille. Thank you for believing in research and the power of yet. Merci.